I've clinicked a lot of bands and rehearsed a lot of bands, and it's interesting to come in and watch and immediately see that those systems don't work, and that in itself is holding the band back from a rehearsal where the pacing is good, where the energy is good, because the director is the person who creates all this. Is that your experience in your world of being in other places too? This tapper mentality?
Well, I've certainly been places that didn't have that system in place and places that had other systems in place. And I think what we're saying is that it doesn't matter what the language is or who's doing the tapping or how exactly it's implemented, that there needs to be a way that it's done, that the students need to understand why it's done that way, and they need to understand how it's done.
Right.
And it'll save, I mean, if you could count up the amount of time that it saves over a year rather than going, okay, here we go, all right, we're going to start, we've all heard that. We've been in rehearsals where we've heard people doing that.
Stop, start.
And then nobody knows.
Yeah.
So those are you can do that for, the language you use for how you're going to go back and run a set again, or where you're going to start, or how you're going to, how this is going to start, how you're going to play. All that language can save time.
Right. I'm going to talk about another time saver. Okay. On sort of my how to rehearse the marching band list, in sort of the isolating drill and the pacing of rehearsal issue, if what you need to rehearse are counts 29, 30, 31, 32 of move 1, and then the planning of the foot on count 32 and the change of direction and the shift of the hips on count 1 of the next move. So that's what we call the seam. The seam is 29, 30, 31, 32. Now we're at the seam. Now we're going to take one step in the next direction. And that 32 count move starts at A. Don't go all the way back to A to rehearse the seam. Take everybody and have them stand in chart 2 and back up 4 steps. Visualize the last 4 steps of the move. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just... you're trying to rehearse an element that occurs on 32 and 1 of the next move. So you're standing in chart 2. All right, everybody back up 4 counts. Count 29. Here we go. Would you stop on count 1 of the next move? So 1 and 2 and 29, 30, 31, plant, step. That only took 7 seconds. Going all the way back to count 1 to go 32 counts to plant and then set 1. They'll do it, but I think that's called rehearsing the seam. We do it when we rehearse the concert band too. The transition into letter B. The retard begins 2 before B. So rehearse 2 before B. Can we just be more connected with me, and I'll control that a little bit, and that's more efficient. So I think there's a perfect example of marching band and concert band are similar. More than we think, more than we give it credit. And yet we have to create some technical sort of devices to get the marching band rehearsal to be as efficient.
And I think that the pulse from the tapper and the transition are very important for your visual, for the color guard, because they need a prep time. They also often need time to transition to another move, a different direction.
Yeah, and we're constantly visually discussing angles at these seams, these junctions. I think a lot of bands that hurry through things, certainly bands that do one show and get really, really clean and have many, many eyes on the product, they get very clean because of the attention to these transitions. For bands that have fewer resources, one of the most revealing things is to have the students freeze their foot on count 32 and be sure that hips are lining up and shoulders are squaring up, and placing the step then, which usually is a transitional step that shifts the hips or the like, and it's a snapshot of what's happening at the transition. That's a really important thing. We probably have 2 or 3 minutes before we're going to be done here. Listening on the field is way different than listening in the band room. It's amazing to me that students, when they finally see a video or hear a recording of the arrangement for the first time, And remember, you've been buried in the drill with the third trombone part. You're like, I had no idea it sounded like this. They don't hear the whole. And a lot of times our band room experience when we read the music, and then when it's like 4 days later when they're buried in the third trombone part. So I think we teach students in the band room to listen because the room is engineered. In an ensemble on a field with no acoustics, just a high ceiling, a very high ceiling, you can't hear everybody in the room like you can in a concert band. I mean, we get angry if our tuba player can't hear the oboe player. Then the tuba player's playing too loud. You have to hear the density of everybody's sound in a concert ensemble. You can't hear everybody's sound in a marching ensemble. So our trick, we call it listening in zones. And a zone could be listening in the people around you in a 10-yard perimeter. Don't worry about listening to the other side of the football field. If you guys go to the link that has the from Carnegie Hall to the 50-yard line, there's so much detail on that, and it was it's a clinic handout from the Midwest Band and Orchestra Clinic from a few years ago that just talks about these similarities and differences between concert and marching. We understand that we are trained more in the concert than we are in the marching. That's probably the right way to do that, and we can borrow from that and find really good systems to help us be more effective in our rehearsing and teaching. So, final thoughts for the world out there?
I don't know if good luck.
There you go. Drum well.
I think if you have the opportunity for, say for instance, you have a color guard to go to a clinic, that is the best opportunity for the guard to improve, whether it's offered by, we have a winter guard that actually offers a clinic, and it gets the guard exposed to different technique. It actually gets them to be a little bit open-minded and more into what color guard actually is and how to become a stronger support group. And the clinics oftentimes are hosted by some of your top designers or drum corps or even winter guards. So it's a great opportunity to expose guard members, and it's also a great opportunity to just get more exposure to color guard.
Absolutely.
And I don't think there's anything more important that we talked about than the goal setting and thinking about what you want your students to achieve today and by November and by June, and what you want them to take away from their experience 5 and 10 and 15 years down the road that they can learn from their involvement in these organizations. So I think goal setting is a really, really important thing to take very seriously.
We have a couple of expressions that, as I'm teased by the students, could land on a T-shirt, right? Put that on a T-shirt. And one of them is, this is just band. It's only band. Keep it in check. Have fun. But that band in this setting is really a great life skill class. We learn a lot of stuff about each other and about other things besides marching well, playing well, spinning well, drumming well, etc. We learn a lot of things in what we put on our plate in relating to each other and interacting with each other that I think makes our experience universally positive and important. That's not a Michigan State thing, that's an everybody thing. So, okay? So signing off from rainy East Lansing, Michigan.
Thanks.
All right.
Happy spring.
Go green.